Drew Ross. I'm the senior pastor of New Hope Baptist Church. I think over the pastoral tenure here in Hackensack, it's been very interesting. I often remark to people about how most of the people that I started with here who are pastoring are either retired or have been reassigned somewhere else. So it's quickly given me the opportunity to have moments in the community where people are looking in my direction for leadership.
I would describe Pastor Drew as cutting edge.
Very genuine and attentive. When he says things, he means them. I've never seen him ask somebody to do something that he wasn't willing to do himself.
Pastoring can be very overwhelming because people have expectations for you as a person, as a pastor. A lot of times people just think that church is Sunday morning, but it takes so much to make Sunday morning happen. And I can't do it all by myself. And so who sits at the table with me when ideas are coming out is so vitally important.
I need to get in contact with Kimmy and make sure she's on target.
So I am Reverend Ronica Harris. I am the executive minister of our church, and in that role, under our pastor's leadership, I oversee the operations of our church.
We need to get a graphic created for Harvest Fest.
Okay, all right, I'll reach out.
Pastor and I are constantly talking about ministry. We're constantly talking about things that we can do that will benefit our church, that will grow our church, and then also that will benefit our community, ways that we can serve our community and also bring other people to Christ.
Wednesday breakfast, is there anything that we need to kind of like oversee, make sure is...
The food. We need to get somebody to do food. It needs to be somebody that we know and are comfortable with being around for
that we've
3 days. The other thing is how many vehicles we're gonna have. That's one of the reasons why I asked about the carpool, because we're really only allowed 4 vehicles.
Well, Reverend Ronica, would you consider driving to Rawway and we can ride together?
It's easy working with Pastor Drew because he allows me to have autonomy. I think he is an excellent leader because he's always available and you can sit down and talk to him about anything, and he is very direct and very honest, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, what I would say is let's call them and ask them to do event setup from 9 to 11. I have the privilege of working with some amazingly gifted people, and they do a great job of helping me shine.
A day in the office for me looks like coming in the morning, checking in with the staff and the administration, seeing what's left for me to do. I plan events for the church like Sunday Fun Day, Harvest Fest.
So even though I'm not in the office on a daily basis, on Sunday as part of public relations, I take pictures. I take pictures whenever we have events. When we have meetings, I take notes. And let's see, I also do graphic design when needed.
Well, as an office assistant, I do things that are assigned, and the people who feed work into the office.
I'm gonna send y'all a sermon Jerry Carter preached last week at a revival called Repairing the Rupture. He talked about how in Jesus, God is the offended one because of our sin, but God in his own way, even though he was the offended one, didn't wait for us to apologize. He came after us. And so just kind of talk about how Christians should always be able
You preaching to the choir. This is why I said, okay, I will take one for the team.
Able to
Well, God is not through with me yet.
get along.
And I'm striving every day to be a better person.
A typical week of sermon preparation for me begins on Mondays. I don't make a commitment to a text on Monday. I just try to feel out what might be grabbing my attention. If a text shows itself to me as the focus, and then mull it over in my mind for a few days.
Become the ultimate methodology. So, how does it work? Josh's first thing he came out and said is, have your scripture. That is one of the first characteristics of those who have a philosophy of expositional preaching.
I've always wanted to get a PhD, just did not know exactly in what, but I did know that eventually I would like to teach in seminary. One of my joys has been the opportunity to work with preachers who are developing their gifts and skill for the work of ministry.
If I were to describe Pastor Drew in one word, I think I would use the word busy. Like, he's not just a pastor, he owns businesses, he's in school, he's on committees and boards, and it's enough to make your head spin, but he manages it really well, and I think that is really inspiring and impressive because he's always doing something.
So as somebody who is incredibly busy, one of the things that I try to do is enjoy the things that I enjoy. So sometimes I test myself to see if I can get 5 good shots in a row. Let's see how that goes. Golf is one of those sports where you love it and you also hate it. Everything is going over there. So a typical day would start with dealing with our family dog. He creates his own calendar, which includes most of the time barking, roaming around in his area, wanting to go in and out of the house, and not listening to anyone. Typically I do the gym regimen 4 days a week. One of the reasons why I work out so intensely is because with preaching and ministry, there's a lot of wear and tear on your body. So I balance that out by conditioning my body to be able to handle the stress and pressure that comes along with ministry.
Working with Pastor Drew, for me, would have to be fun. I would say it's very fun.
You have to be ready because he is an innovator, because he is creative. He is always thinking of something that is, again, outside of the box that other people or other churches may not be doing.
All right, so let's start at the front door. The front door is, I got a spot. That's number one. Oh God, the funniest preaching experience I ever had was preaching at a church whose name I will not mention. I'm preaching at the church and they have this production style feel. It wasn't like it was a big church, no extravagance or grandeur, but in the middle of me preaching, the smoke machine goes off and fills up the entire pulpit area, and I start uncontrollably coughing to the point where I could not get myself together for a few minutes, and I had to kind of stop the sermon and then try to retool myself to continue. I mean, just smoke from everywhere. No offense to the church, but it wasn't a big enough church to have that much smoke coming out of that machine.
I think New Hope is a church that really prides itself on community outreach, and everybody gets involved in that. And so I think it's really interesting to see like how much pastor does and the church does for a community, for the community as a whole, and just being able to experience that and see what really goes into community outreach has been very enlightening for me.
Pastor Drew is driven because he does not sit around to wait for someone else to do something. If something needs to get done, he will get up and do it himself.
Hackensack and Bergen County is a very diverse area where people are really involved and engaged in the spiritual climate. Our church has become very community focused and oriented. So I really love pastoring in this area. I wouldn't trade it in for anything else, and I look forward to continuing to grow in this community.
If you would just state your name for the record.
Drew Kendall Ross. Well, why am I stating my name though? Because everybody knows who I am.
That's true.
Right? Oh, wrong way.
Feeling about your swing now?
Not good. But for the sake of the video, great. I am a person that really enjoys food. So, you can tell that from my size. I was trying to figure out how to answer it without saying, where do you want to go to eat? If you're too good for the church van.
I'll admit that I'm a little bougie. That's a diva moment. That's a diva moment.
Let's call them and ask them to do event setup from 9 to 11 and the event from, I hope so.
Wow.
And
He's getting all of this stuff.
well, we can choose what we use when we don't.